So welcome to the Dancast. I'm here today with Morgan Oughton, who is the owner and founder of Spacefish Army. I'm sure anyone who's been to dive shows or on a dive boat has probably recognized your vibrant designs, and so very excited to delve more into your journey. It sounds like you went from the world of fashion and now have transitioned that into diving. So I'd like to hear just about your background and how that happened.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is amazing to be able to talk about my story and just get it out there in the industry and get people to know a little bit more about why we do what we do. My name is Morgan. I became a diver pretty later in life. I found it kind of by accident when I was scuba diving in the Bahamas on my birthday, my 30th birthday. Much before that, I was into fashion. I went to FIT for fashion design, and then I worked in the industry in New York for over 10 years. I have a strong background in working in licensing and branding and a lot of large companies in New York in the fashion industry. And then I just kind of got sick of it all. And I was, nothing against the company I was working for specifically, but I just wanted to do something different. And I found diving, and it just pulled me in. And in a lot of ways, I think diving saved me. I think it just changed my whole aspect of life and philosophy on, what we could be doing with our lives. So I left my whole life in New York behind. I moved to Bali, and I lived there for about a year. I lived in Utila, I lived in Hawaii, and in all of that, I thought that I'd found my people. And you find this eccentric group of passionate people, explorers and adventurers and everything, and everyone's wearing all black. And I was like, something doesn't quite match up there. So really, I just started designing stuff for myself. When you are teaching, you bring down all these divers, and everyone looks the same. No one knows who I am, let alone who each other are. And I was like, well, why don't I just, start wearing brighter colored things and patterns and everything. And so I made a couple pairs of just really basic leggings, rash guards. I found a company to print some of my artwork. And then I started wearing it, and everyone's like, what is that? Like, what is that? And I literally sold the pants off my body several times. And that happens enough times, and you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, all right, maybe this is something. I don't know. So I created a little website, very bare bones, barely e-commerce, and we got a couple orders, and I'm like, oh, okay, like there's something to this. And I was just so inspired by diving and everything that I was seeing underwater. So the artwork was the easy part. The artwork just kind of poured out of me. I was so excited to be seeing all the crazy critters underwater, and to me it felt like another planet. Yeah, so people wanted to buy them. I was like, okay, I'll start making them for that. And then my dive shop he's like, well, can we sell them? I was like, well, I don't know. I have no idea. So I kind of accidentally started a business, and I had to find a factory. I had to, create more artwork. And we got into our first store in 2018. Just my dive shop I was working for, Seasport in Kauai. Shortly after that, I got the gig on the aggressor boats. And so then you're talking about working, 12 to 14-hour days, being in and out of the water 5 times a day, just constant, needed versatility. So the dive skins, the one pieces, I didn't quite understand. They were just involved too much. You need help getting them on and off, or, if they're wet, like they're impossible to get on, or you had to change in between dives. You can't, go serve dinner if you're wearing a one-piece suit. So Spacefish was kind of just born from necessity, and my love of all the critters that I was seeing. So the artwork really is inspired by all of the diving and the world around us. And I love that our customers kind of play off that. Like they see the passion because they share that passion. So now you get to wear your passion while doing your passion. So that's kind of in a band shell, where it all came from and how it's been going.
And I know, so your designs are very inspired by the sea, and it sounds like you also have a commitment to sustainability in the products and recycled materials. So kind of curious about how that came to be, if, the iterations of the product line and your use of recycled materials?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for almost 8 years now. So there's definitely been evolution in that, not only in our products, but I feel like the whole industry has really taken on the green initiative, but the technology is catching up to it as well. So when we first started, the material was a lot thinner. It was still great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like when we found our material that we use now, it was like, we really raised the bar of quality of what you can do with recycled materials. So right now we use 87% recycled polyester. So that's recycled water bottles, other single-use plastics that are being woven into the fabric, and 13% spandex, so you still have that, stretch that you need for it not only to stretch, but to come back. So I absolutely love our fabric. That I think is one of the things that sets us apart. It prints extremely well. It grabs all the colors. And really, if you take care of it, it lasts you for years. So I do think that's an extremely important part of the dive industry taking on that initiative, because if we're not helping protect the planet, what are we even doing?
And one thing I think too, just thinking about dive skins and wetsuits, I feel like a lot of times sizing is difficult. I'm just wondering, I know it seems like y'all are pretty inclusive with sizing and having tops and bottoms. Have you gotten good feedback from people who maybe have struggled to find a good fit in other, exposure protection?
No, yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's another thing that's evolved over the years. I think it was 2.5, 3 years ago, we came out with a full plus size line, because we did have larger sizes, but they weren't catering to that specific market. Because in the fashion industry, we're so focused on, if you grade a pattern, it only goes up a certain amount. And once you get into plus size, it's actually a completely different garment. So we've created a plus size collection specifically for those curvier bodies, and to really, that's another big reason why I'm into the two pieces, because some people are all different shapes. So you have bigger tops, bigger bottoms, and with the separates, you can really pick and choose what fits best to you and not have to shove yourself into the standardized sizing that like a wetsuit or a one piece offers.
That's great, because I feel like that's, especially newer divers, it does feel like one more piece to worry about and barrier to entry can be just finding a wetsuit that you're comfortable in.
And we've had divers, of every single age group, of different genders, of every single body type, and they'll come up to us, especially at our trade shows. That's why I love coming to places like this, where we see our fans in person and get that feedback, because there'll be people that have been diving for 40 years, and they're like, thank you. Either, I don't care if it's body shape or just the fact that we're fun. They're like, I've been looking for something like this, and I've been diving for this long, and I finally feel comfortable, or I finally feel beautiful in something that I'm diving in. And we really give people confidence that never really had that before. A lot of our clients are women. I'd say we're 80-20%. We're still working on figuring out what the guys are really looking for. But I feel like women, especially as we're growing in the industry, and we get to say what's next. And we've been able to give people a lot of confidence, I would say.
It has to be really rewarding as the business owner and a diver yourself, hearing that kind of feedback.
Yeah, and honestly, that was just a byproduct, I created stuff that I wanted to wear, and then I had no idea that so many people felt that way. So it was really just over the evolution of our product, and that's why we do listen to our customers. We do listen to that feedback, and if we feel like we're missing something, we address that. And we just created a new T-back sports bra top, because our bikini tops were a little too, the straps were a little thin for bigger chests. So we're okay, we should probably come out with something that works for everybody and have that option. So we're always listening for feedback, and willing to make what makes people happy and makes them comfortable.
That's wonderful. And are there any kind of new products or anything you're working on currently that you're looking to launch soon that listeners could be on the lookout for?
Yeah, we're always working on new stuff. So I'm really interested in relaunching our neoprene jackets. Because like I said, I'm a huge fan of the two pieces, but sometimes you do get chilly and you do need a wetsuit, but maybe you don't need the full suit. So we did come out with a neoprene jacket, a 3 mil. A couple years ago, we had some issues with the tariffs and everything happening last year, so we had discontinued them. But I'm bringing them back full fold, and have like 3 new prints that I want to launch them in. So I have that hopefully by DEMA. We also have we always have new prints working because that's the fun part of the job. I'm working on a fuller bodied bikini bottom to give you an actual full bikini set, because right now we have the shorts, we have the leggings, but we really, we'll launch full swimwear. What else we got? This is something that people have asked for a whole lot, but neck gaiters. So just an extremely versatile SPF piece in all of our wacky prints, and you can wear it as a face buff, but it also works great as a headband if our headbands don't work for you, or gives you that extra sun protection on your head. Or it's a long time coming. We've had a lot of people ask us for it, so I'm excited to launch that soon.
Well, that's exciting. I'm sure people who maybe have a specific pattern they like will be excited to mix and match or find the...
I was shocked. I was actually shocked at how many people love to match. Like, even the guys, they won't buy one piece. You have to get the whole set. Like you show up on a boat and you have headband, rash guard, bikini, all the way down to socks. And we bring the vibe.
Definitely a lot more fun than, tech diver all black, to each their own, but definitely fun to see so much color, because diving is, should be fun. And
well, part of what this was, even before I knew anybody wanted our product, and my name, Spacefish Army, I really wanted to create like some sort of community of people that felt the same way, right? So that's where the Army came from. And now we get messages from people that are huge fans of ours, and they'll bring 5 outfits with them to their trip to Fiji or Indonesia or whatever, and they meet somebody else on the boat that has like a bunch of Spacefish Army outfits too, and they become like friends. So we've actually created some sort of community where that'll be the icebreaker conversation starter for people halfway around the world.
Well, I know it's wonderful seeing, I feel like y'all are at pretty much all of the scuba shows and have such a presence in the dive community. So for someone who maybe runs a local dive shop but doesn't have your products in stock currently and is interested in that, or just someone who's looking to, purchase your products online, could you kind of share how they might go about that?
Yeah, we've tried to make it as easy as possible, making everything through our website. So at spacefisharmy.com, we have the full collections available for retail, and we do ship worldwide. But to be a wholesaler, we also have a wholesale tab, which has a whole application. So really our only, we accept like retail shops. So we do want our products like displayed in your store, but if you have a retail store, our socks and headbands sell crazy, and that's a great way to display all of our prints at once and really get people excited or drawn into your shop. So you can sign up, fill out the application, and get an approval, and then order straight through our website, through our B2B site. We have low minimums. We only ask for 12 pieces, and that could be a mix of anything. We have over 400 SKUs in our catalog, so you have a mix of a little bit of everything, and we ship it to you same or next day. Usually it goes out of our warehouse from South Florida, and like I said, we have over 350 retailers worldwide now, so we're growing all the time, and the trade shows come talk to us. We can definitely point you in a direction if you're looking for a specific display, or men's or women's, or what our best sellers are. We're always happy to answer any questions that people have about bringing us in, because there is still some hesitation, which I get. Like a lot of older members come in and they're like, whoa. So you really bring in 12 pieces, bring in some of the accessories, see how well it does, or see how women are like, wow, what is that? And then we build up the confidence that way, and we know you'll order more.
Cool, thanks for sharing. I hope that's useful for any dive shops, pros listening. And I do want to talk a little bit about more about safety and your experience as a dive professional. So I am curious, you worked in the fashion world before, and I imagine that was high pressure, high stress. Is there anything you might have taken, from that you applied to being a dive pro, not just in the world of Spacefish, but I'm curious because I imagine those skills might have translated even though diving's so different.
I would say that when I became a dive instructor, I became a different person. So you say like, what did I bring with me from fashion? And I would say almost nothing, because in fashion, it was very kind of cutthroat and like, I don't know, you kind of felt like a competitive edge with people. And in the dive industry, like what I took away from it is patience. Like you learn patience, you learn, learning how somebody thinks differently or how somebody learns differently than you. So you really start to see people in a different light as far as showing them something they've never done before and seeing how they react to it and being able to adapt. So maybe like adaptation, maybe like that's like a universal thing where any career path, you learn what to do and what not to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that translates, in either in fashion or in diving or anything that you want to do. Like you have to like be aware. Mm-hmm. You have to see the reaction and be able to react but especially in teaching in a positive way, like you always have to hone skills and in a positive way without being criticizing.
Well, as far as and positivity sounds like a big aspect of your approach as a dive pro. I'm kind of wondering your perspective on safety. If you have a top tip, maybe something that's off the beaten path a little bit that you would like to share with listeners.
I would say honesty. Honesty is the best policy. I mean, divers tend to be a little ego-driven a lot of times, and just because you've been diving for a really long time, or you have this fancy equipment or anything like that, like you have to allow yourself to kind of not know something or be uncomfortable. And I feel like a lot of people will push their boundaries because they don't want to say something, or they don't want to seem weak, or they don't want to. Especially as a female in the industry, like men don't want your help, mm-hmm. even though they definitely need help. So I would say honesty and just being open to being uncomfortable or admitting when you're in over your head, like being able to call that dive, mm-hmm. or being able to say no when like somebody wants you to do something. And especially pros, like we get overconfident. And we'll do things that we probably shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. But just having that self-awareness and honesty with yourself and others and your buddy, mm-hmm. being able to say no.
Mm-hmm. That is important. I think so much, there's a lot of social pressure, particularly on, boats. And I imagine even pros diving together can probably push limits.
Tons, yeah, all the time.
So you are based in South Florida now. Do you have a favorite dive site in South Florida and then in general?
I personally love critter spotting. So Blue Heron Bridge is always a great dive for me. Now we live about 30 minutes away from it, so we can do it all the time. We don't do it nearly as enough as we should, but every time we go there, I feel like blown away with what you can find. Mm-hmm. We've had, octopus. We had like 8 octopus on one dive, and they were almost crawling out onto the beach. They were so shallow. Or we had 2 frogfish on a mooring line just hanging out together. And like, you're like, what? Like, am I in Asia? Like, how is this happening in South Florida? So I always love Blue Heron. In general is really hard to say. I feel like there's so much out there and so much variety that really like your mood can shift, and you could be like, oh, well, now I want to see eagle rays, or now I want to see hammerheads and everything like that. But I've always loved critter spotting. So I love Indonesia. I love Philippines. Obsessed with cuttlefish and octopus, so really anywhere you can see smart. Those guys, yeah.
And then just a fun question before we wrap up. So I think your designs are obviously inspired by the sea critters and everything you've seen. Do you have a favorite one, or one that's really plays into a lot of your designs that you really just love?
Oh, a favorite critter or favorite design? Or
maybe both.
Well, being an artist, I feel like you stare at something long enough and you kind of get sick of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm still obsessed with our original prints, our octoflorals, because it really was the reason I started the company in the first place, is I was inspired by the octopus and the Hawaiian flowers I was seeing while working in Hawaii. So even if that starts to, not sell that well, it'll still be among always my favorite. But then anything that's new. So we launched 4 prints last year. This is one of them. This one was really inspired by the Bahamas. So it has not only all the fish that you'll see in the Caribbean and the Bahamas, but it's in the Bohemian style artwork. So we stayed at this really funky hotel in the middle of Nassau, and they were filled with all this Bohemian art that's like super bold style with like bright colors, with the thick black outline. And I was just like most of our prints have a story, so I feel like I get like excited about the story, and then I get excited about the print.
It's wonderful. I feel like every time I'm looking at your outfit, I see a new fun sea creature.
Exactly. Yeah, they're all like puzzles.
Cool. Thank you so much, Morgan. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning more about Spacefish Army and kind of, meeting the personality behind all these beautiful, fun designs.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great
Thank you.
speaking with you.
Appreciate it.